Hi everyone, welcome back and welcome to Mindful Monday. So, just like the person who has sent in today's question, you have been following the videos and you have a better understanding of how the system works. However, you are in regular contact with children, and from time to time you have been wondering about the following question. If I notice abuse or neglect, and if I am concerned about certain children, then how or when should I report it? So how does it actually work, this whole reporting process, now that you understand it? I think there's always a lot of aspects surrounding the report situation because we are only human beings and we can't be too hard on ourselves. And first, we think if we realize something is wrong, we think it will just work itself out. And then sometimes we come up until a point where we realize it won't. Some people say they don't want to get involved in other people's matters. Others weigh up the options, should I not? Others want to report, but they don't know how or they don't know where to begin. In South Africa, we have two very specific legislative measures with regards to reporting child abuse and neglect. And I want to share one of them with you. We're going to read it together. Section 110 of the Children's Amendment Act mandate a whole lot of professionals, so let's quickly read them. Correctional officials, dentists, homeopaths, immigration officials, labor inspectors, legal practitioners, medical practitioners, midwives, ministers of religion, nurses, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, psychologists, religious leaders, social service professionals, social workers, speech therapists, teachers, traditional health practitioners, traditional leaders, or members of staff or volunteers workers at a partial care facility, drop-in centers, or child and youth care centers to report when they suspect that a child has been abused in a manner causing physical injury, sexual abuse, or deliberate neglect. So this section actually lists a whole lot of professionals that need to report whenever they just suspect anything. In terms of this specific act, Section 110, other citizens are given discretion to report abuse, but they are not compelled to do so. But this act is extremely strict, especially in terms of the professionals mentioned. And you can find various media and news articles and reports of professionals in the last few years who did not report, who actually got arrested. And that's not even mentioning everyone who got fined, but that is arrested because they didn't report. The second legislative measure that's also there, and I'm not going to show this to you, I'm just going to tell you about it, is Section 54B of the Sexual Offences and Related Matters Act that we have in South Africa. And this act clearly states, and this is related to every single one of us, it states that failure to report sexual abuse or the exploitation of children and mentally handicapped persons by everyone is deemed an offence and is punishable with a fine or imprisonment of up to 5 years or both if the person is found guilty. So this clearly states that if you have knowledge of sexual offences against children or handicapped persons, you have no choice but to speak up. And this is not just applicable to certain professions, but this is applicable to every single one of us. So then you probably wonder when you are listening to this, what should be reported? So we call it reasonable grounds. Reasonable grounds for your suspicion of abuse of a child or a mentally handicapped person should be reported. And this should be based on facts that is obtained objectively by exploring a particular situation. Thus, this is information that you get by looking at it, by hearing a specific situation or scenario, by smelling it, or even by tasting it, and then by evaluating it and interpreting it. So it's not your opinion of state matter, it's actually by facts that you obtained from situations. And in terms of the Sexual Offences Act, reporting can also be based by disclosure of a victim. So that means when the victim tells you what has happened to them, or even an eyewitness, when an eyewitness tells you what has happened at an incident. Some people also wonder or ask if they can be liable if they maybe report something they suspect and then at the end of the day the perpetrator is found not guilty. And the answer to this is no. So mandatory reporting, which requires or which says the law requires you to report, is if you report based on a set of facts and it's not done by your own malicious intent, it means you cannot open yourself up to any claims of liability. But then it needs to be based on facts and not your own malicious intent. You will not be held liable for damages under these specific conditions. So during the week, we will be exploring more with regards to these themes on my Facebook page. But for now, it's extremely important that you do know that if you are ever concerned about a child, you can report the case at your local police department, the Department of Social Development, or any local non-governmental organization with social workers, whichever is the closest to you. They will assist you with the process of exactly how it works or how you should report it. I encourage you to report your concerns. You may just make a huge difference in the life of a child who cannot report this themselves. Subscribe to my channel, follow my page on Facebook. We will also be exploring this topic and how exactly to report it further during this week. Have a good week.